Greetings, Vault Hunters all across the 6 galaxies. Welcome to the Bordercast. We are live at our usual time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm Mitsu.
And I'm Tessa, coming to you every week to break down all things Borderlands.
You know, our intro theme, I just realized this right as you started playing it, our intro theme is a bop.
It is.
They call that, right? A bop? Yeah.
Every time I play it, we're like...
We are. And then the YouTube comments section gets mad at me because they're like, what are you bopping your head? Well, when you listen to great music like that, you can't help yourself.
It's music from the Borderlands games. It's actually music from Borderlands 3. Very specific.
It is. And it's funny because I very rarely keep my music on anymore. When I play video games, I usually listen to the music that I want to listen to, but Borderlands 3 is one of those few games, the works of Jesper Kid, and I believe there's a few other composers this time. It's not, Borderlands 2 was mostly, I believe, Jesper, but there are several composers who added to the music this time, and they just did an amazing job with it. So if you haven't, go listen to the music for it, and then also listen to Alicia Keys at the end. We can't on stream because DMCA, but you can at home. So it's good. I promise. Oh, right. As always, we want to take a minute to thank all of our new listeners on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher, and those watching right now live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and I don't believe we're live on Steam today because we are running up against another program that is currently being aired on that channel, but later on the VOD, regardless. If you are enjoying the program, we would love for you to give us a big old like, follow, or favorite, as the only thing that's going to happen from here on out is things are going to get spicier and spicier and spicier, and you are definitely going to want to stay tuned. That I promise you.
Cool things. Very, very cool things. I'm very excited about some stuff we're going to talk about later. I'm also super excited to ask Mitsu a whole bunch of questions that we usually ask everybody else. And I've never gotten it. Like, I know some of it, but not all of it. And I don't think all of you guys know a bunch of it. I tend to talk too much. So when we ask these questions of other people, sometimes I'll answer too. But Mitsu hasn't really done that. So we want to hear from him. But that's coming up. In the meantime, some important ongoing information. Gearbox has merged with Embracer. That is the nitrous to their vehicle of awesomeness for the foreseeable future. Basically, it's just an influx of resources and hopefully the vision that Gearbox has for itself it will continue to expand and grow and get better and better and better going forward. Tales from the Borderlands will be on Nintendo Switch starting March 24th. I am a scrub and I can't play the Switch because of my hand issues, but like everybody else I know plays it and has one and is super happy with it. I know Mitsu loves his Switch, right? So I'm super happy for all of my friends that are gonna finally get this game that I absolutely adore on the Switch. A bunch of them haven't played it. There's too many people.
Including Fran Mirabella III.
Yeah, Fran. Seriously. So I'm just excited for everybody to get your hands on it. My hands on it? No.
Anyway, all our hands on it.
Yes. I'm excited for everyone to play it. The Borderlands movie is happening. I feel like my Twitter mentions have not blown up quite as much ever before as when we tweeted out that we were doing this show talking about the Borderlands movie and casting and our thoughts on it with the awesome Liz55, who you will see later today on Ultimate Vault Hunter, and Mitsu. And it was crazy. We had 2 hours worth of conversation, and I felt like we could have kept going for many, many more. Oh, yeah. It was a fun show.
Considering all the different facets of the movie that we could have speculated on, I mean, we cut it short. And we probably could have gone on at least another hour talking about Liz and then another hour talking about just Borderlands in general, as it pertains to the movie. Because I'm hopeful. I'm keeping an open mind that they are going to do the series justice. And one of the things that you really look for when you think of a movie about a video game is if you're going to do it right, you need little things in there to keep the core audience engaged while making a movie that appeals to not necessarily everybody, but a larger group of people who otherwise might not be attracted to the series. So little things like, I think of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, for example, they have little earworms every now and again in the music. You'll hear like musical riffs for early zones in each Sonic level from like Sonic the Hedgehog 1. And like little things like that, little cues, maybe like some sort of Easter egg where we see Steve Steve is just there, and he's just walking by, and he just waves. Steve could break the fourth wall, and he could be walking by at one point. He could be like, and then just keep walking, and nobody acknowledges it. It just happens.
Yeah,
and that's just little things like that.
I feel like Gearbox is so good at having little things like that. Like their attention to detail is unsurpassed, I think, honestly. I mean, the fact of the matter that every single black line that you see in the traditional sort of hand inked style of Borderlands is hand drawn. Like, it's called hand inked, hand drawn because it is. And it's incredible that they do that, and they took the time to do that. And there's just so much detail in the game. Every single scene, from every trash pile to every incredible raid boss, there's like so many little things that you don't notice right away, but the overall impression is that there is so much depth to everything. And then, I mean, if you just like take the time to look around when running through a Borderlands game, there's so many Easter eggs, so many like little things, and I can't imagine that stuff won't make it into the movie. I mean, it's Gearbox. They're gonna have things that are fan service, so to speak. I'm sure. I mean, I'm guessing, but I can't imagine that they won't. At the same time, I agree with the mentality that Borderlands, the movie, should bring new people to the franchise. It should be, sort of something that could be not just digestible, but really fun and entertaining for people that have never even heard of Borderlands. And then maybe they'll want to come play Borderlands with us, and that'll be awesome. So, we'll see what happens.
I think it really helps to know that Randy himself is an executive producer on the movie, for better or worse, because he's somebody who has a hand in everything that Gearbox is doing. So he can kind of be this way of tying together all of these different facets of what makes Borderlands great. And he can be like, hey, that thing that they're doing right there, that's not quite accurate to the game. Like, when Lilith phase walks, maybe she'll throw her arms out like this. So do that instead of being like, boom phase lock. So little things that can make it look more in line with what we are used to seeing, that make us feel and believe that these are really the characters that we're used to playing, are being portrayed now properly on this screen. It could be something as outlandish as that, or it could be something as simple as just making sure that weaponry looks accurate. Something as cool as that.
I mean, I've seen their reproductions, like the Molly 1 pistol that they put out, and those came from like those were things that Gearbox worked with somebody to make happen. And I'm sure that the people behind movies in general know what they're doing with props, especially movies that are like this kind of movie, right? Have this kind of backing. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of faith, okay? And I don't entirely understand why other people don't. But I do, because like something that has been proven to me over the course of the last few years is that they keep, like, every time they say they're going to do something, or they say they're going to like deliver on something, or there's a reason to be excited, they absolutely do deliver on it. Like, there's been nothing, not a single thing that they've been like, this is going to be cool, this is happening, and it hasn't happened. Like, absolutely everything has come about. So they've earned my trust at this point, and they've earned, I think, the faith that I have in them to make things awesome. So
there's a lot going into it, and I can't wait to see what else happens with the movie as time goes on, because that's going to be an ongoing conversation right up to and then immediately after it launches. And I imagine we'll probably have a continuing discussion about it even afterwards.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, especially if they set up a sequel at the end of it.
Well, okay, so I'm going to have a hard time not seeing the movie like immediately as soon as I possibly can, and then talking about it ad nauseum right away afterwards. It's going to be hard because some people won't see it right away. So like we'll have to like walk that spoiler line at some point, yes. But I'm sure we're going to go see it as soon as we can. So I agree with you. Oh my God, Fiona. I want Gortys robots in Borderlands, like the shooty part of Borderlands, not just Tales. I love Tales. I'm actually playing through Tales on the main channel here. Whenever I stream, and I'm replaying it. I think for the like fourth time, basically. It's like third and a half time because one of the times I didn't quite finish it. But I love her. She's my favorite. She's one of my favorite robot like entities, AIs, characters.
I think you just really like robots. That's just what I'm learning about you over the past couple of years now. Because you like Gladys, you like Gortys. There seems to be G named robots you enjoy.
Yes.
So that means you also liked Gort. That's a deep cut. What is that? Gort was that was To Serve Man, I believe. I think is that. Yeah. That's where they come down from outer space and they have a book and it's To Serve Man, and then they realize it's not a I'm spoiling it obviously, but it's a very I think it's a Twilight Zone episode. They hand it to him and it's like, oh, to serve man. Oh, like you're gonna serve us. You're going to take care of all our needs and you're gonna give us medicine, you're gonna help us out. And then by the end, the guy finds out as he's being dragged away, it's a cookbook. To serve man. Oh, the day that something like that. Yeah, I think maybe it's the day that I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think these things might be before my time. Maybe.
Yeah. My dad was a big sci-fi
cool.
geek, so he knew all of that stuff when he was growing up. So
I feel like I moved from Russia when I was little, and the only really sci-fi thing that I saw from the US in Russia was Star Wars. And then I came here and I started watching Star Trek The Next Generation. So anything that was like before then, I can't go backwards. You know what I mean? It's really weird. It's like I can't play video games that came out before when I started playing video games, or like too long before when I started playing video games. Like there have been so many times where people have told me really cool things about an older game, and this is not to invalidate the awesomeness of older games. They are awesome. I wish that I had that ability, but I didn't start playing video games till I was in college. So I played a few older games, but like past a certain point, I just can't. Like the graphics, I just can't. I can't do it.
It's hard. It's like imagine trying to play on an Atari 2600 today.
I can't.
You would probably struggle playing Pitfall.
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. You've probably seen it before. Pitfall is a game. You play a guy and then like ropes will swing across holes and lakes and ponds and things like that. Okay. And you jump across and then it goes do 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 and then you swing across and that's it. And it's just level after level of that. It was actually one of Activision's first games. Interesting. Known fact. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I just can't imagine. Like I've played some older games, but I don't know. This is also why like Borderlands 2 actually ruined me for a lot of shooters after the fact. Because I couldn't deal with at first I didn't know how to shoot at all because it was my first real first person shooter. So I was kind of like really happy when I occasionally hit stuff and B, once in a very rare while actually killed something. I'd be like, yay, I killed it. It was really funny because I could not aim or do anything. I don't even understand how I played that whole first year. It was amazing. But eventually I got better and I understood, I learned how to shoot and things in first person shooters, and it just ruined me for other games. And Borderlands 3 has done the same thing because the gunplay is so good. So like anytime I play something else, I'm just like, I'm judging you, video game.
I think my only problem with Borderlands is there aren't enough weapons that are hit scan for me. And I know that that's the design of Borderlands 3 or Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 1 is that, well, I guess not. Well, maybe Borderlands 1 didn't have it quite as much. There was a little bit more in the way of hits. I'm thinking back to like the Hellfire. I'm pretty sure the Hellfire was actually a hit scan like back in Borderlands 1. And I think so was the Double Anarchy and a few others.
There were definitely some hit scan guns because I also like hit scan guns. I mean, I can handle the non-hit scan guns thanks to Borderlands. I don't think I would be able to handle them as well at all if not because I played other games that were like exclusively hit scan. And I liked those. I liked the feel of those guns, but I really like the variety of hit scan versus not hit scan. and how different guns feel. And I've kind of like my palette for those kinds of guns and that kind of shooting has expanded thanks to Borderlands, and I love that. Borderlands 1 I didn't play until they came out with the remaster right before Borderlands 3 was launching. And there were a bunch of guns that I liked. Like there were tons of guns that were really hard for me to shoot, but there were a lot of guns that I liked. The SMGs in Borderlands 1 were awesome. And also like the pistols. I mean, I like pistols and SMGs in every Borderlands game, but specifically SMGs in Borderlands 1 felt really good to me. So
you probably also really like repeater pistols then. Because back in Borderlands 1, there were repeater pistols and revolvers.
Yeah.
They separated the two of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The revolvers were hard, just because, I mean, the way that I shoot and function in video games, anything that's like fast fire rate, automatic. So yeah, repeater pistols, I remember. You're right. It's just cool. I don't know. I need to go back and play Borderlands 1 again, because I've only played it once. I couldn't play it before. My old computer that I streamed on when I first played Borderlands 2 wouldn't run it. So I need to play it.
For clarification, because there might be some people out there that don't know exactly what hitscan is or what it means. Hitscan is a mechanic in shooter games where when you press whatever your trigger is, so if you click your mouse button or you pull the trigger on your controller, whatever the case may be, as soon as it registers that shot, it will always hit exactly where your targeting reticle is. So if you're somebody like me who loves to snipe, and it's a little bit of an unrealistic kind of sniper rifle thing, but it's the satisfaction of pull trigger, pop head, you really like hit scan. In Borderlands 3, there are very few guns that actually do this. Most of them have projectiles. Borderlands 2, projectiles of varying speeds. Like, think of the double penetrating unkempt Herald, for example. Mm-hmm. That is definitely not hit scan.
No.
This is the complete opposite of hit scan. The lob is the complete opposite.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes.
You get used to it though. I actually think so. Like, I think I had a really hard time with non-hit scan. Well, I think I had a hard time with everything when I first started playing Borderlands 2. But I particularly had a hard time with non-hit scan weapons because I didn't understand the timing. And then I played some Souls games, which are very different from Borderlands and shooter and that kind of thing. But they do teach you timing of attacks, right? Yes. And like understanding how long it takes you to swing a sword, for example, or something like that, right? And like the arc of your sword. And I mean, basically I like punched my face against the wall of a Souls game for like about 2 months until I finally was like, oh, that's how you play. And then I punched my face against the wall for years longer, but that's just how those games work. But with Borderlands, I actually think that helped me, weirdly enough. I feel like it helped me because when I went back, because I was always going back to Borderlands 2, and every time I would go back, I would, even though I wasn't necessarily playing shooters, I would come back and I would improve because I understood that timing was important with those guns. I think it just takes practice, you know? And if you change anything, like you change your mouse or you change your monitor or you change your input device, whatever it is, sometimes that changes the timing of things. Like if you change the switches in your keyboard, that can have an effect. It's crazy.
Yeah. If you change the refresh rate, if you go from 60 to 120, for example, that jump is immense. And then again to 144.
It does.
And
it
if
really
you're a crazy person to 240. You have a monitor that can support that. That is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Speaking of cool guns that are not hit scan, have you gotten a wedding invitation, Mitsu? Have you guys chat? Hopefully in the last few days, there was an update. We did hear that there was a problem with Broken Hearts, the event, and some people were not getting the wedding invitation drops. And over the last few days, they changed it so that you could get the wedding invitation to drop from the loot hearts. You got many. That's great to hear. I'm curious about Mitsu if you were able to get some.
I got 2. Okay. And then I was having some audio problems that I had to fix this week in Borderlands, which actually happened live on my stream. Oh, no. It happened last week too, and I just figured, oh, well, it's probably a one-time thing, so I just kind of plowed through it. But this week while I was playing, there was this weird scratchy thing. I think I finally got it fixed. Basically, I just flushed Borderlands 3 out of the system, reinstalled the whole thing, and then verified the cache, and it sounds like it's in great shape now. So I think I'm good to go. But it was just a really distressing thing because it sounded like every now and again you'd hear like a it's just these weird cracking noises. Yeah. And originally I thought I was more worried that it was my headset than anything else. I was like, oh, my headset, I just got this.
But it was only happening in Borderlands.
Yes, stream could hear it too. So I was like, okay, then that means it's something a little bit more complicated than just replacing a headset or something. So
well,
uninstall, reinstall, all good.
Talk to me.
Yeah, of course.
We'll figure it out. But yeah,
everything should be good.
Cool. Good to hear. One thing that's important for those of you guys that don't know, most of Gearbox, so Gearbox has two main locations. The main location is in Texas. There's one in Canada. There's like a slightly smaller version, like part of the studio in Canada, which is really awesome. They're actually responsible for a bunch of the DLC that we know and love, and including 4, which is my favorite ever. But the main offices are in Texas, and Texas in the U.S. has had an unprecedented disaster of a snowstorm in recent weeks. Lots of people were without power for several days, up to a week. Some people had like pipes burst, and it was just honestly, it was so bad. Like some people, like Noelle, has had her like everything she had in her apartment completely destroyed because of pipe burst in another person's apartment, and damaged everything. And it's just like I can't even imagine how hard that is to go through. But that's it's happening for like everyone. I know Graham had struggles. Like they're all of the devs that are in Texas trying to make sure that like this event is doing well and everything is going well for everybody at home playing video games right now. Their homes, the only place you can be right now, right in the middle of the craziness of the last couple of years or last year and a half. Their homes are not okay anymore to be in. So it's just been a complete, I can't even believe they were able to put out an update to Broken Hearts Day in the middle of all that. The fact that they were able to, like, some people were upset that they didn't like get a fix out sooner. That's why. The fact that they got a fix out, and also they've identified the problem, right? And so it will not happen with future events. So you don't have to worry about it happening again. And for this particular instance, you were able to still get things from the loot hearts, which is really cool. Yep. They figured out a solution. So I'm glad they were able to do that. I think it's a miracle they were able to do that. So
it's very fortunate. It was a change that nobody really saw coming. But it makes a lot of sense, all things considered, because if you can't get it the way that they intended, then you probably should shift it to being able to be obtained somehow that still pertains to the events. This is actually a really good change. And honestly, I think it puts like Broken Hearts way up there actually in terms of an event now. I think they should keep it this way. The wedding invitation, it's not the best gun in the world, but you don't always want the best gun in the world. Sometimes you just want to have fun with a silly gun like the wedding invitation. And so if you can still get the best version of that or farm the best version of that, what is Borderlands? Borderlands is about farming. So I'm glad that you can actually farm it instead of having to make a new character and then earn your way all the way back through it, because that was not as nearly efficient as this. And this is great. This gives people a chance to actually get what they want, and that's exciting. It's a good change.
And I just really like this gun. As a person that generally likes things that are hit scan and close to it, it's incredibly satisfying when you use a gun that's totally not hit scan, that's very much like projectile, so that there's a delay. My watch is very excited that I've moved my hand enough times today. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, it's just so satisfying because when you actually get that perfect shot, it feels amazing and it sounds amazing. The wedding invitation has a very distinctive sound to it, and yes. I love it. So congrats to everybody that got the one that they wanted. I hope that you guys have enough of them to play around with for a while, because the event unfortunately ends today, but I hope you enjoyed it.
Should be ended.
Yeah, I think it's ended. I think, it's 2 p.m. because we moved. Yep,
That's right.
It's over. I'm sorry.
Wah wah. I am actually a little sad about that, but so it goes. It'll come around again next year. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
which means the next event that we should be looking forward to, super fingers crossed until they bleed, is
The one where you could get the OPQ's cartel event.
Yes.
That's all I care about. I don't know about you, but I just want to do OPQ. We don't know for sure or about anything, but we're very much hoping that this event comes back and we can play it because it's so fun. It's literally one of the best events. Also, the yellow cake, that's a really good point. The yellow cake,
I love the yellow cake.
Awesome.
I usually don't go for rocket launchers just because
that one was
they're either ridiculously overpowered or they're just way too weak because that's just how they go. Yeah. But the yellow cake was so much fun if you hit it right.
Good.
It's so good. It is an unbelievable weapon. And just in general, Revenge of the Cartels is probably the best of the events. And it's something, and well, yeah, I forgot about that too. Talking about grenades, the fish slap.
Yeah, that's
everybody
true.
loves the fish slap.
That's very true.
Well, yeah. I think especially Quag. Quag really loves his fish slap.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited to see and hear what people do with all of this new gear that they're going to be getting in the near future. Hopefully. Yep.
On top of everything that we'll be receiving next month as part of DLC 6, the director's cut.
Oh god.
The final announced DLC content for Borderlands 3, of which I am very excited for. We'll talk about it a little bit more a little bit later in the show, but yeah. I think Hemovorus is going to be a really fun boss for people to enjoy, especially when we take a bit of a retrospective as to other bosses in the game. But what were you up to this past week, Tess?
I was working on Ultimate Vault Hunter for today a lot. And I played Tales. We started a new Tales playthrough on the main channel. I'm basically forever going to be doing Sunday streams because my mouth still hurts from my surgery. It's actually, I thought that my second surgery would be the worst one, and I was right. So the recovery from that has been kind of not so fun.
Wavy.
Yeah. I'm like, I think I'm getting close to being better, but I'm not really 100% yet. So like some days are good, some days are bad. I'll get there. It is overall improving. So I'm doing fewer streams right now, but I am definitely going to be doing more streams once I'm 100% done with all these surgeries, and there's going to be bonus streams on lots of days. And anyway, the streams that I have done have included mostly Tales, because Tales is literally one of my favorite things, and I just enjoy it so much. We haven't gotten to the part where Gortys is in it yet. We got to the part where, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but there's like a race kind of situation that happens. It's some fun combat. He's good. He's very good. So that's where we're at, and it's really fun. And well, I'll probably be I'm gonna try to do a stream this Sunday, and so we'll probably start from the race and afterwards. So that'll be really fun. What about you, Mitsu? What have you been up to in Borderlands this past week?
Oh boy. So like I said, I had the audio issues, but I did want to get some Maliwan takedown in there once again this week. I've really been enjoying doing it. It's why I mentioned Revenge of the Cartels going forward, because to me, Revenge of the Cartels is yet another takedown. It's probably takedown realized and conceptualized in the best way possible, because you can start it, you unlock it, you go through that level. It's challenging, but it's not awful. And then you get to the boss, you fight the boss, you get the rewards from the boss, but if you die, you respawn right there at the boss, you get to fight the boss again, and then you get your loot, you get a couple extra chests, you're out, and then you get to do it all over again.
Yeah, and all of the enemies are really fun, and they change. So I actually think the Revenge of the Cartels in some ways is better. Like, I really like the takedowns. I do. I love the takedowns. I love what they tried to do with them. I think they did a lot of it very successfully. I love especially the second takedown, because I love that the environment changes. I'm very much one of those people, like, I think I probably have, I've never been diagnosed or anything, but I probably have a little bit of ADD. At least I have gamer ADD, because literally if I am staring at the same thing for too long, I'm just like, I need to move. I need to change my perspective. Yes. Visually. And so I love this thing about Guardian Takedown, that it changes locations a bunch more, you know? But what's really cool about this event, Cartel's event, is that it changes enemies too every time. So like I mean, you run through it and it could be one kind of enemy or another kind of enemy, and the location stays the same, but it's beautiful and it's very, very fun to run through and get to the final boss and fight through it. And there's some really awesome loot. Hello, OPQ, looking at you. At the end of it, right? So I'm just excited for it to come back, and I agree with you. It's like almost a takedown, and it's really awesome. And the music is really good. That's absolutely true. The music in Cartels is amazing. You can actually get it for yourself on Spotify. It's available. I think it's also available on iTunes. I'm not 100% sure on that. But
I want to say yes.
I want to
think
say
so.
yes. I don't currently have an iPhone that I use or iTunes that I use very much, but I think it's on there too. Definitely on Spotify. Actually, there is the entire soundtrack to Borderlands 2, and for every DLC and every event that they've had new music for, Gearbox has all of that music done in-house. It's there, so they can put it up on Spotify, and you can use it, and you can play it and listen to it. Like, I listen to some of the Borderlands music when I'm not playing Borderlands, like when I'm just running or driving or something, or going to the doctor. It's really funny. So definitely check it out. You can just look for the Cartels. Search for Borderlands Cartel in Spotify, and you should find it. I think that's how I found it before.
Yes.
Actually, what I'll do is I'll link it in the podcast description section for you guys.
That's the place to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of things that should probably be in the podcast description, there are many, many people out there who have been wondering what is up with Bunkers and Badasses. For those of you who might not know, Bunkers and Badasses is a new tabletop RPG that's being produced by Nerdvana Games, which is also owned by Randy Pitchford, which many of you may know is the president and CEO of Gearbox Entertainment. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a replication, somewhat, of the in-game Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Teeth game that we were playing, Bunkers and Badasses. And it allows all of you to take on the role of a bunker master or the role of a vault hunter or a bunker dweller, if you will, and go around in search of really cool loot and adventures that you can get on to your heart's content. They have a few that will be included in the guidebook that you can take on, or you can create your own adventures. We pre-ordered it, Tess and I. You did, right?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I don't even know why I'm asking. Of course you did. I'm crazy about it. But there hasn't been much of an update. And I believe last that we had heard, Bunkers and Badasses was scheduled to come out sometime next month. Unfortunately, we live in COVID times, and we lived in a time where there was also a very severe cold snap down in Texas, where Nerdvana and Gearbox are located. So there have been some logistics and manufacturing issues, which is why they sent out this email, which I will now read to all of you. Greetings, traveler! Your friends at Nerdvana Games here with the latest news on your pre-order for Tiny Tina's Bunkers and Badasses RPG. When we last spoke to you, we were in the final stages of pre-production. Today, we're happy to report that we have received and signed off on a final copy of the game. The quality of the content, plus all of the pieces included in the game, meets our highest standards of quality here at Nerdvana, and we're super happy with how our golden sample turned out. And they include a bit of a photo, and it does look quite amazing, especially the dice, but I really like nice dice. And we know that everybody out there will be too. However, due to global manufacturing and shipping delays due to COVID, as we spoke about before, our manufacturer says that we won't be able to hit the release window originally provided to everybody. They are working closely with manufacturing partners to clearly define an updated and revised shipping date and release window. The minute that there's an update, they'll let us know. And of course, as soon as I get that and Tess gets that, we will then bring that information to you as well, should you miss it in the myriad of emails you probably have to answer every single day. Thank you for all your support and understanding. We really appreciate your patience and for being a fan. Speak soon, your friends at Nerdvana Games.
Yeah.
So
you can also follow them on Twitter, Avicus. So I also don't think I got the email. I'm wondering if it went to my spam folder or something. I will check. I hadn't even thought to check, but I do follow them on Twitter. They're at Nerdvana Game. Nerdvana Game, or you can search Nerdvana Games. I also just linked the Twitter in the Twitch chat. I will make sure to put it in the podcast description section. The exact same information that was in the email is also on their Twitter. So I super recommend you follow them if you just kind of want to stay up to date. I'm sure they'll, post other cool things because Nerdvana is amazing. They're nerds just like the rest of us.
Yes.
The fact that they even put together a Borderlands version of D&D, tabletop RPG game is so awesome to me, and I'm so excited about it. So whenever it gets here, we're gonna enjoy it together with you guys and bring you lots and lots of content related to it as we can. And I'm excited to see it whenever it gets here. It looks really fun. Hopefully, hopefully we can actually play in-person games someday. But even if you're not in person, you can definitely play this over like Zoom or one of the other platforms, or Twitch or however. So it's really awesome.
Yes. And so there's a lot to look forward to on that account. Some people may be asking, why is it going to take a little bit extra? I mean, one thing that you should understand is, for example, I got really big into collector's editions for things this past year. And I ordered them maybe 9 or 10 months before they actually came in. And usually it was supposed to come, it might have, for example, I ordered something and it said, oh, it's going to come in June. It took all the way until October or November to get here. And that's just because there's like supply chain disruptions and manufacturing issues. Everything is just turned on its head right now because of COVID. And so I strongly recommend that you guys just chill and hang out. Just be patient. I promise it will get to you. We don't like being patient, especially here on the Bordercast. Tess and I have been waiting for this for quite some time.
Yeah.
But we can wait a little bit longer just to make sure it gets there and that it is the highest quality of product that we possibly came to expect from it.
I would rather something like this is done right, and I don't want to see supply issues. Granted, a lot of us pre-ordered, right? So I want probably what they're going to do, I'm assuming, is have a certain amount and then send them all out, right? And
Yes.
then also have a certain amount so that people can purchase more and then don't have to wait months and months and months and months, right? Because like what's happened with PlayStation, not cool. Nobody's fault. It's just kind of the situation. But nobody likes delays. Nobody likes to have expectations of when something happens or when something is going to happen and then having that time be set back. But especially if there are extenuating circumstances like COVID or crazy climate change things, or if something just needs more time in the oven to make sure that it comes out perfect, that's a worthwhile or understandable delay. So we just have to be patient. I know it's hard, but it's going to be amazing when it gets here.
I feel like that's a lesson to be learned about anything involving video gaming these days.
That's so true. That's so true.
So, Tess, I believe you said you had some questions for me, right?
I did. So last episode, we were talking, and Mitsu, I think, I brought up something that I don't think Mitsu realized. I used to watch him when I first started streaming, when I first started playing Borderlands and streaming Borderlands, like a really long time ago. And I mean, I like didn't talk in chats. I don't talk in chats very much right now either, but I definitely didn't talk in his chat. But I did watch him. And so when I first found out that we were going to do the show together, I fangirled a little bit. And like I said, we do interviews of members of the community all the time. And we ask them all kinds of different questions, and I've answered these questions because they've either asked them or I've talked too much. So I've just brought up stuff about myself. But we've never gotten a lot of this info from Mitsu. So I want to ask him some questions. So Mitsu, who is Mitsu? Where did you get that name?
Oh boy. All right. Whew. Okay. Let's go back a very long ways. So when I was in college, and even just slightly before college, there's a game called Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney series. And in that series, there is a prosecutor known as Miles Edgeworth, which my friends in college saw me as, because I'm actually, well, I want to say that I'm very stern-faced sometimes and like serious, but I'm not always that way, obviously. Sometimes I can be very whimsical. But for some reason, they saw me as very Edgeworth-like with certain things. I mean, he enjoys things like the Steel Samurai and that in that universe, it's like an anime or something like that. So it's like, there was all these parallels that they were drawing to everything, and also I happen to like the color purple, and his suit is wine red, so it's a very like off purple kind of thing, and he wears a cravat and stuff like that. So like, oh, you're Edgeworth. Okay, fine. So when I moved over to Twitch, when I started my stream, my name used to be like Miles P. Edgeworth for everything. Miles P. Edgeworth, Miles P. Edgeworth. And then I realized, oh wait, Capcom might sue me for that. That seems like I might be getting infringed for something. So maybe if I tweak it and I go with the Japanese name, Mitsurugi Reiji, which is his name in Japan, then maybe I won't get sued because like Capcom Japan won't care about some guy in America using that particular name.
Oh.
I was like, yes. And I was like, okay, this I can deal with. However, when you are growing your brand, especially when you are a native English speaker talking to mostly an English like audience, having a Japanese name isn't necessarily the best idea. Most people can't pronounce Mitsurugi Reiji. They see it, they can't do it. And autocorrects Mitsurugi to Mitsubishi. I'm not a car. This happens a lot in my chat. People will say, "Hey Mitsubishi." Oh, that was autocorrect. I mean, "Hey Mitsu." Like even now, they'll still autocorrect because it's just Mitsubishi. So I was like, all right, well, that's going to become a problem. So eventually, I tweaked it because I used to call it the Mitsu Show, and then eventually, I was lucky enough where Twitch was like, all right, the name Mitsu hasn't been used forever on Twitch, probably since Justin.tv. We can give you just Mitsu.
Yeah.
And so that's how that went down. It was a series of progression. And I think the first person to really ever call me like Mitsu like that was probably King Gathalion. And because he would always say Mitsu. That's how he would that's how he would pronounce it whenever he's like or Mitsu. Hey buddy. This is how much I miss Goff, by the way. God.
That sounds adorable, actually.
Yeah. We were best buds. We still are. Like we're still that, but I know, he's busy over on Facebook gaming and he's got a family and all that stuff now. And I'm doing everything that I'm doing involving Borderlands these days. And so we don't get to talk nearly as much or interact nearly as much as we did back when we were playing like hide and seek and stuff like that. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit too with the conversation. So, but that is how the name Mitsu specifically came up and was created. It was because I just have like, I believe very strongly in justice. And, I like to make sure that the truth is seen and heard and that, people are being taken care of and treated fairly and things like that. So it really all goes back to Edgeworth and that kind of personality and how it relates to me as a person.
Yeah, that's really cool. I definitely feel you on the alternate language barrier to name thing because nobody pronounces Tessichka as Tessichka ever.
Not even me at first, right? Yeah.
And I actually I did ask Twitch to just make it Tessa because it's not a thing. It's not like a channel that exists. And they were like, nope. And I was like, sad.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a channel.
How long ago was that? You should ask again.
It was like, well, I started checking to try to get it. I want to say like a year ago. And then I finally asked a friend that works at Twitch because like I hate bugging my friends at Twitch about things, so I was like, I don't know who to ask. Can you just like point me in the right direction? I don't want you to do anything about it. Just tell me who to ask like officially. And he was like, just go through the help portal. So I went through the help portal and they told me no. So
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's fine. I'm like trying to figure out if I've been on Twitch for 7 years. So I don't really think a rebrand is in the works. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard for people to pronounce and spell and remember Tessichka. I do love the name. Like it makes perfect sense to me, but I am Russian, right? So obviously it makes sense to me. It is hard for people to remember. I try to always say Tessa, CHKA, so that people can kind of do that. But it's almost like having Tessa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the same thing. People don't remember it that easily. So I don't know. It's a thing. I feel you on the name thing.
Yeah.
Bigger question, maybe smaller question. I don't know. But how long have you played the Borderlands franchise? Like, did you play the games before you started streaming? Did you start streaming them like immediately? Did you start streaming because of Borderlands? How'd that all come about?
So with Borderlands is a very special, very, very special game to me. Many years ago, and I told this story very briefly, I think, on the Borderlands show the first time I was on. I suffered from what one might call poor, and I didn't have a lot of money at all. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a lot of prospects. I think I had just like departed college. Basically, we'll just say I dropped out. I dropped out of college because I wasn't doing well. I wasn't focused. I didn't care. I didn't have any direction. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. Nothing. I had nothing. And I had, I still stayed in touch with my group of friends from college, and some of them we would be on Skype at that time. Long before Discord, 4 years before, because I think Discord was like 2014. Long before Discord, we would have a Skype call that would go all day and all night. I mean, like open 24 hours. So anybody could jump in our friend group and have fun talking with each other. We play video games. Anybody could jump out. And they knew that I liked role-playing games. They knew that I liked looting. They knew that I liked shooting. They knew that I liked all of these things. Okay. And one of them knew I liked shooter games. And he was like, hey, there's this new game coming out. It's a role-playing game, but it's also a shooter game. It's a first-person shooter game. It's called Borderlands. It's made by Gearbox. Gearbox, I know that name. I played Opposing Force. That was a really good expansion of Half-Life, which not many people know about. I'm going to give this game a shot. But I didn't have any money. So they bought me Borderlands 1 Game of the Year edition. I played it. I played the ever-loving crap out of it. I loved it. I really love General Knox, and I kept going and playing with it. And then they're like, well, if you really like this, guess what? Borderlands 2 is coming out real soon. I was like, oh, really?
Nice.
That's great, but I still suffer from debilitating poor. So they were kind enough, and about this time, I finally started looking at a job and improving my life besides being just a shiftless bum. They were kind enough, all of them, to pitch in for my birthday and buy me Borderlands 2 for my birthday, because my birthday was literally a day after it launched. So I took them up on that option. And I started playing it, and I started loving it, And I was really happy. It was a great time. And about that time, I had started realizing that streaming had become a thing. I watched people who play League of Legends. My biggest influence was the streamer Saint Vicious, who played League of Legends. He had a very similar humor style to myself. He was very self-deprecating. He was very amusing. He would sit in his house back in South Carolina when he lived there with a box of wine and just sit there and hang out and talk with chat. He was very interactive. And I was like, well, if he can do it and he's this way, then I could do this, right? I could absolutely do it. And so I got a job. I worked hard, I saved a whole bunch of money, and I built my first computer that I personally ever built. And I started streaming under that Miles P. Edgeworth name. And I played lots of different games. I played League. I played Left 4 Dead 2. I played this, that, and the other thing. And the one game where people kept coming back to watch me while I was playing was Borderlands 2. And so the old saying is, give the people what they want. I was having fun playing this game. I was having fun getting to know this community. And in turn, people were coming and watching me play. It was a no-brainer. And so it kept going and going. And that's how I wound up meeting Baru. That's how I wound up meeting King Gathalion. It's how I wound up meeting Arleeson. It's how I wound up meeting Master Kiz. It's how I wound up meeting T-Rex. And that's how we like all got started back in the day. We all played this game together. They had different upbringings. Like Gathalion, he was actually a mod on the Borderlands forums back then. If you look in the credits, his name is actually listed in the Tiny Tina credits.
I very vaguely remember. I think you did an interview with him and asked him about this, and that's how
he was on our very first show.
Yeah. Maybe
many moons ago. He was on our very, very first show.
God, that was a long time ago. It's crazy.
Spoiler out for episode 100, and I probably shouldn't say this, but we're just going to do show prep now. I do want to see if I can get him back on for episode 100.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. I hope he's doing well. From his Twitter, it seems like he's happy on Facebook, and that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I'm just glad he's doing well, because I've also known him for a long time. You and he and Probro were the first people that I watched playing Borderlands. And then a bunch of people moved on to some other games that I, at the time, couldn't play, and then could play, but various different things happened. And anyway, I remember watching you guys and being like, okay, this is cool. This is community is really cool. And that's really neat. So what attracted you to the game initially? Like, are there any specific aspects, like the looting, the shooting, the raid bosses, anything like that specifically? What's like your favorite thing about the games, really?
I remember a long time ago, I saw an article in Game Informer. I believe it was actually a full spread. It was several pages, and the front cover was it. And the game looked cool. It looked very different from what it does now. And I know we've brought this up before when we talk about the art style. At that point, it didn't catch my eye in the art style, but what it was offering in terms of the looting and the shooting aspects of it. But you saw it then, and it was still El Generico Brown and Bloom, which, if we're going back 12 years now in video gaming history, maybe even 13, 14 years, we're talking like old Call of Duty games and stuff like that. Brown and Bloom ruled the day. Everything was just very brown pastels and palettes. Battlefields looked very like somber and gritty and stuff like that.
This is the first time I've ever heard this, because
really
before. Well, okay, so I played. Like I said, I played one game besides EVE Online, like before Borderlands 2, and then I played 3 or 4 other games besides Borderlands 2. 4 other games: EVE Online, Portal, and Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
and they were very colorful, and they were all kind of like very different. But yeah, like I mean, Borderlands 2 was probably the first and I didn't start playing it until it had been out for, I want to say, about a year, because I started streaming 2014. So that's kind of, well, yeah. So before 2014, I mostly just played EVE.
Yes.
So I have no concept of other games. I didn't even try other games until like the last year before I actually started streaming. So I was just like, space. Space is cool. My actual favorite things in Borderlands are anytime we get to go to space. So the fact that we get a spaceship or our sanctuary in Borderlands 3 just made my heart happy. But anyway, so, it's crazy. I didn't know that, the brown and blue thing. That's interesting.
Brown and Bloom was Bloom. So like you had like the wavy effects coming off of things. There was depth of field was becoming a big thing in video games. This was like what ruled the day. It's like, do you remember Year of the Dog? I think it was like 2013, 2014. Maybe even 2015, when like every game that year had a dog in it that accompanied you wherever you're going.
Oh,
like every years kind of had a theme back then of where gaming directions were going. And at that point, shooter games typically were in that brown and bloom phase. So Borderlands didn't really attract the eye. But at some point over the course of development, somebody somewhere along the line had the idea of changing the whole art style around to making it look more like a comic book, kind of this inked style that they now have developed for the game that we come to know and love. And when I saw that later on really attracted me to it, because it's like, all right, this isn't just your typical Like, it's not going to look the same. It's not going to feel the same. It's got an aesthetic all of its own. So maybe this is actually worth checking out because it's not just a cookie cutter of every single game that has been coming out at that point in the shooter genre.
That's cool. That makes a lot of sense to me. I just to me, I was attracted to it visually because it's just beautiful. But it didn't occur to me that it would be so very different from other things. You know?
Oh yeah,
Cool.
From a historical context, Borderlands was vastly different from any other game that was out there at that time. I'm not going to sit here and say that there weren't brown palettes in Borderlands 1. Because obviously we were dumpster diving in Old Haven and New Haven. And, we were going around basically giant trash pits everywhere in Borderlands Classic. But it was the way that it was visually represented on the screen that was different from how these other games were doing it. It's because it popped out, because they had the heavy ink lines around it, because it utilized these colors in a certain way. And because the weapons that you were using, the Hellfire was blue and had red explosions when you hit on the target for the fire damage that you were doing. So it all stood out in contrast to each other and really caught your attention and your eye. It's wonderful.
That's really cool. And it's really funny because you're saying this while I'm looking at our Bordercast window and it's a lot of oranges and browns and blues. And I'm like, It's great. I love the style of Borderlands. That's really interesting because I feel like you have always come across as more of a kind of gameplay person, like almost pure gameplay person and more of a loot focused gamer than I am. And I'm very, that I'm very into the aesthetics. But it's, I just think it's really cool that it was actually the aesthetics that first drew you in. That's really cool. And I didn't know that it was so different. I mean, I knew that it was different. Yeah. So I've never seen anything else like Borderlands in the whole time that I've ever played video games or even knew that video games existed. I've never seen anything else like Borderlands. It so very much walks its own unique path. And that's really something. I feel like it's hard to do that in any kind of entertainment genre.
I think it's what sets Borderlands apart from every other game still out there. Yeah. Because pretty much every other game takes some sort of realistic approach to how you do the things that you do in Borderlands. And Borderlands is like, nah, fudge it. We're just going to make this look comical as crap. And blood's flying everywhere, but you're like, wee! And you just see body parts and heads are getting electrocuted and shocked off their bodies. And it's just you'd be horrified, but you're not. You're giggling and you don't know why. You just murdered somebody. Well, killed because it's self-defense. They shot first. Yes. So you just killed this person and then you're like, wait, but this was really funny how I killed this person. Oh, right. And it's the visual conveyance of it. It's the art style of it that really attracts people to how it's done. And then once it gets you hooked, you realize, oh, well, for that time and even today, the core concepts of mechanics, just like we were saying before with the gameplay, it caught you with the eye and then you got reeled in and then you're suddenly like, wait, there's more to this game than I thought. And it's actually really, really good. All right, I might stick with this for a while. And so I stuck with it for a long while.
That's so cool. Just a quick sort of side question.
Sure.
There were a lot of raid bosses in previous Borderlands games. And there's one coming. We don't know very much about it. Mitsu actually knows more about it than I do, but I'm curious what you thought of the raid bosses in previous games, because that was kind of the epitome of especially once you got to Endgame and once the DLC had all come out. What was your favorite? And why did you like it so much?
Oh boy. All right. So it's funny because again, in the YouTube comments, they don't necessarily believe, or on Reddit didn't believe me about this either after the Borderlands show. Okay. Because I said something very specific that they just were like, oh, Mitsu, he's full of shit. Who would ever say something like, what a noob? Master G is my favorite raid boss. And it's not just because I have a career because of Master G, but we can talk about that in a second. Master G has very solid core concept raid boss mechanics. They're very simple. They are annoying. But if you know how to do them and you execute them, you can beat him every single time. And so what makes me excited for what's to come with Borderlands and Hemovorus is that I'm not going to say it's Master G in terms of what those mechanics are for Hemovorus. But what I really enjoy are having to do things in a boss to advance the phases besides just doing damage to a boss. You have to think creatively. And again, I'm not saying Hemovorus does or does not do that. What I am saying is, in general, raid bosses have those core concepts. Think of Hyperius, for example. Hyperius the Invincible. You had 4 loader bot robots that were coming after, four warloaders, I think they actually were. And they're firing at you constantly. And they have shields that are impenetrable unless you have a bore. And they reflect bullets at you, except one of them doesn't. And, you know, Hyperius has that shield too. And so the entire concept of how to do Hyperius right, I'm using that term in very heavy quotes here for those listening on the podcast services, how to do it right was you were supposed to damage each one at a time so that it would get the shield, and then the next robot would drop the shield. Damage that one. The next one drops the shield. Damage that one, drops the shield. Damage that one. All 4 are damaged. Now the shield goes over to Hyperius. Hyperius has his shield dropped. Now you have a damage window phase. You damage Hyperius a whole bunch. Eventually he gets his shield back, and now one of the robots, and you cycle through it over and over and over again until Hyperius is dead. That's how you're supposed to do it. Now, of course, anybody who played Zero knows all you needed to do was get a Sandhawk, use some sort of singularity grenade, line them up, and then knock them down. That was not what was intended at all, but of course we play Borderlands and we're min-maxing crazy people, so we can figure out how to cheese a system
Gamers
like that.
will always find a way. That is definitely a thing. But I love that you know and enjoy the intended method, right? I kind of can relate with. So my favorite boss is Terramorphous, which sounds crazy because I know people found some fun ways to beat that one. But I personally never actually did the quote unquote, also heavy quotes, fun way, the easy way. Because at the time I was still very much, I'm so happy if I actually shoot something and kill it. Kind of. And it was just beautiful. Like, I really liked the design of the boss itself, and also I really liked the area that it was in. Like, it's an arena without feeling like an arena because it's so open, like the edge of the cliff and the background and the openness of the space and the sky and everything. I just really liked the environment that we were fighting in and the enemy itself. I didn't mind if the fight took a long time because it was a beautiful thing to be killing and shooting at. So I just enjoyed the whole experience. That's why I like that one. But I really like that you liked the intended mechanics for Master G and not just the,
Yeah, and that applies to all of the raid bosses back in the day. When you really break down what you were supposed to be doing, Terramorphous was very straightforward. Terramorphous was fire at boss, repeat. And then think about how it evolved from there. Now we have DLC 1, Captain Scarlet's Booty Bay. That's just what I'm calling it from now on. That's not the actual title, but that's just what I call it. You have Captain Scarlet's Booty Bay. And in there was Hyperius and Master G, and we just went across their mechanics, or we talked about Hyperius. G's mechanics were kill worms, drag him into the acid puddles somehow, or make him run through it. That damages his infinite shield. Then he gets his normal shield. Then you can kill him. Easy peasy. Takes 20 minutes maybe, but easy peasy more or less. Or if you're Jolt's dude and you just want to cheese it, you just drag him to a gate and then you drop a gate on him. Don't do that, kids. Earn your loot. You can do that though. So there was that, and then DLC 2 was Mr. Torg's Campaign of Carnage, which the badass creator of Badassitude. That was Pete. What do most people do with Pete? What most people do with Pete is they pull out a trespasser, they pop off his helmet so they can crit him, and then they will just shoot at him with a double penetrating unkempt herald until he basically dies. What you're really supposed to do is you're supposed to damage him a whole bunch. He does his AoE Nova. You're supposed to open the pipes, wash off all the acid and the fire, and then repeat that process the whole time. And the time limit is supposed to be that the ads that come out of each of the pipes get harder and harder as time goes on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a soft enrage mechanic. Nobody does that. Everybody just blasts through Pete and just like they just get all their health back. So the dots on you are kind of like inconsequential, more or less.
Yeah, it's I feel for the devs that came up with that because it's such a cool mechanic. Like mechanic wise, it's interesting to go through all of that. But at the same time, people are like, DP Herald, go. And it's just the way it is. I understand because I did both methods and I liked the mechanics of that one, but also I liked using my DP Herald. It was such a good gun. I'm sorry.
It was every game has that one gun that's just that strong. I mean, with Borderlands 3, what is it? Everybody uses at one point everybody was using the Maggie. Now I think everybody's probably using the light show.
The light show or the flipper, I think are still kind of pretty king right now. Flipper is my favorite thing in the world. Light show is pretty boss. Still pretty boss. The OPQ, when it comes back around, will probably be boss for a long time again. That gun, that carried me for so many levels. It was so good. I know Liz loved it too. It was like one of her favorites. So gosh, there's so many things I could ask you, but we are definitely running short on time. So I want to get to the questions we have lined up.
Sure.
Raid bosses are super cool though, and I'm excited to see what happens with the new one that's releasing with DLC 6.
I have a very strong feeling people will enjoy Hemovorce because it is in line with what we just talked about, the mechanics of raid bosses actually having to do things that impact and advance the way a boss reacts to certain stimuli. It's gonna be wonderful. Cool. That's all I'll say for now.
I wish it was here already, but soon. Okay, so one thing that has not happened in way too long, but I know the answer to this. I know that Mitsu loves events and conventions and things like that. But maybe tell us about your favorites, or like what was the first convention you ever went to, and what did you love about it? What made you want to go to more of them?
Oh boy, well, I've hit the con circuit since what was the first one I went to? Probably like Anime Next or Otakon of like 2000 something, like 2005, not 2005. Maybe like 2007, something like that. That's all anime weeaboo stuff. We don't have to talk about that today. I'm still a recovering weeaboo. So I don't have time to watch anime anymore. Shit takes too long. You get invested in an episode, like something, you realize it's like 200, 300 episodes long. Nope. Sorry, I got video games to play. So the first dedicated gaming convention I think I went to was, I want to say I went to PAX Prime 2014.
Oh, okay. So
and that, what's that?
I'm trying to remember if it was 2014 or 2015. But I think so. Wait, PAX Prime 2014 was in the fall of 2014.
That's the Seattle one, and that was probably very early September. So like probably like maybe August 30th, August 31st.
I was at that one actually, I think. That's cool. That
would have been really funny if you like walked past and didn't even know.
We probably did, honestly.
Almost certainly. That was one of the very few times that like King Gathalion ever came to a convention too. So that was the first time I ever met him in person, as well as Professor Broman in person, Admiral Baru in person.
I think that's where I met T-Rex.
He was there.
Yeah, because later that same so AGDQ happens, I want to say in January. So later that winter, I hung out with T-Rex, and that's how I met my friend Koko Frucup and a bunch of other people. Was AG2Q because I had met people at that pack. I think I get conventions confused. I'm sorry, but anyway,
the days blend together after a certain amount of time. It's been almost 7-8 years since that particular convention.
I can't believe that was your first one though. That's crazy.
First video game centric one.
Okay,
I'll put it that way. And even then, PAX isn't really just video game centric. It just happens to be video games are the largest thing there, but there's tabletop gaming there too, and there's a whole bunch of different experiences. People still cosplay while they're there, so it's super cool. And the Seattle Convention Center is a maze, an awesome maze, but it is like a mind-boggling maze.
What
trying to
what is
navigate
it
it.
that like you love about these events and conventions and things like that?
People, hate people. Oh boy, uh, at that first convention, King Gathalion and I went to the Twitch partner party. And it was down the road at a place called Garage in Capitol Hill, and on the second floor above the bowling alleys, there was a lounge, and somebody set up karaoke. And if there's one thing you should know about me, chat, everybody listening out there on the podcasting, I love karaoke. I love singing. I used to do it on stream all the time until the DMCA gods got really angry, and then I got scared. But I used to, when we're doing G, for example, I would sing SNSD Girls' Generation G. It's a K-pop song. I sing the whole song while killing Master G.
Okay.
That's why I keep saying Master G is how I like got my claim to fame, how I made my career. Because people would be up at like 12, 1 in the morning watching this weird white kid who's like singing Korean pop songs while killing a violent boss in Borderlands 2. And they thought it was the greatest thing ever.
That sounds like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. And so we're up there and we're just having a good time. We're doing all this stuff, and like I love getting to meet people and the interactions with everybody, seeing the booths. I think at one point an old friend of mine, Linda, used to say that the best part about conventions is they're like sleepovers. They're like 2, 3 day, 4 day sleepovers for everybody in the industry to like come over and hang out, and not like you have to work, but you're not totally focused on it because every morning you wake up and get Bloody Marys and mimosas with people that you only get to talk with on the internet otherwise. And so it's like really a special time for everybody.
Okay, so future charity goal for at some point when we do a big charity thing, Mitsu sings live on stream something. Now, so technically you can, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure you can you can stream to the music category and do live performances as long as you have the saving of VODs turned off, videos on demand on Twitch. I believe, please don't quote me on this, I could be wrong. But I think that's the current rule because they have a performance license, quotation marks, big quotation marks.
This is the hardest I can possibly make.
Yeah. That the way that I understand the current rules, and that literally tells you nothing. Please do your own research and like consult a lawyer if you really want to be safe. But I feel like Mitsu, maybe there's like a Borderlands related jingle that he could sing for us. I want to hear this.
Oh yeah. It used to be one of my favorite things to do. It's part of the reason I was able to, if you will, woo my wife.
Really?
Because I told Brofish I did this, and I did it for her, and then she's like, "Oh, cool! Hey, check this out!" And then she did Rap God, and I was like, "Excuse me? You did what?" And then she did it, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Now, where is my mother's wedding ring? I must propose now."
Oh, that's adorable.
And then a few months later, that's exactly what I did.
That's
Kids,
adorable.
don't let anybody tell you video games don't lead to happy endings, because they absolutely do.
Yeah, I love Brofish TV, by the way. She's amazing. You should check her out. I'm just saying that.
Yes.
Anyway,
but yeah, and the other thing that I really enjoyed about conventions real quick is doing GCX. I got to get in my shout out for that. Again, run by King Gathalion. We talked about this with Shifty5 Liz last week, how much fun we have hosting it every year. We have the privilege and honor of hosting it for a couple different years, walking around that convention. People make me feel like a superhero. People will come up to me, "Hey Mitsu, can I get an autograph? Can I get a hug? Can I get a picture?" Anything like that. And I'll just stop. Before the first year I'd met Brofish, one of her mods came up to me and struck up a conversation. I wanted to meet Brofish, and he was like, "Yeah, no, totally. I'll take you over to meet Brofish." And apparently I don't remember this quite, but it's probably true. I had to be corralled over to Brofish because every 20 steps somebody would come up to me and strike up a conversation. And so, like, I think it was Comfimus is his name. Comfimus would have to actually, like, as soon as I would finish with that conversation with that other person, be like, "Brofish is this way. Come on now. Come on, Mitsu. You want to meet Brofish, right? Come this way." And then somebody else would walk up and another 20-minute conversation. And eventually I got over to her and she was hanging out with her mods and everything like that. And I was like, "Hi, I'm Mitsu. Nice to meet you. You're so cool. You're Brofish."
That's
She's
so
like,
cool.
It's nice. So,
That was really,
again,
really
video
sweet.
games. They lead to good places. Promise.
That was really sweet. Someday I will make it to a GCX. I've wanted to go ever since there was a GCX, and something always happened. we'll get into all the things that happen. But basically, the next time there is one, I am freaking going. If I have to pack myself and my cat that needs 50 medications a day in my car and drive us both there.
I'm going to take the very optimistic approach and say that hopefully, but again, I'm being extraordinarily optimistic here. Hopefully, there is one this year in person.
That again, would be amazing. I don't know if they'll this year. I feel like I don't want to get my hopes up personally.
Yes.
So I think next year seems very likely. This year, we'll see. But anyway, we are super running short. This was supposed to be a shorter episode because the last episode we did an extra hour by accident. But we're running long because this is a fun conversation. So very quickly, what kind of streamer do you see yourself as?
So there are three types of streamers. There's people who are informative. There are people who are personalities, and there are people who are like speedrunners and just really that damn good at the game. I am probably just that personality type, I guess, because people say I'm good at the game. I don't believe them because I look at Lazy Dad and I say that's somebody that's good at the game. Then you also have to remember it's Lazy, and he's like in the top 0.1%.
Lazy's superhuman.
Exactly.
And awesome. Lazy Data. Yes. You guys should go follow him. But I will say there is something to be said for somebody that has a personality and is also informative, but not necessarily good. Like you can be, it's kind of like being book smart, right?
Yeah.
Except you're book smart about, you're knowledgeable about what you love, and you do research on it, and you know stuff about it, and you help people learn things about it, right? So like I absolutely would say that at least for me, watching you way back when, you were informative and funny. So that was cool.
It was a very different time. And it really helped out a lot too, because I figured out and like through people in the community, I learned how to properly do Master G, and people even back then still were confused how to actually beat G effectively. And so they would come in, they'd be like, wow, you're really smacking them up. Like, what's going on here? And then I would walk them through it. Wow, I just turned off my camera. Wonderful. I accidentally hit enter, which apparently does that now. So hopefully I'm back in the right spot and everything's cool.
Yes, you're fine.
Okay. But yeah, that again, it goes back to all being about Master G and just like the education and the humor and all of it coming together that way. That's how I see myself. Hopefully other people see me the same way.
Yeah. And very quickly, very last question. Who were some of your streaming influences? Like when you started, who did you watch that inspired you?
Saint Vicious. Saint Vicious of Team Liquid, I believe he is now a coach for. Because I used to watch a lot of League of Legends back then, and the humor style, the way he conducted himself on stream, the way he interacted with his audience, even in the middle of a very intense game, such as League of Legends, I was like, if he could do it, I could do it. And, Borderlands wound up getting pretty intense too, especially when you're fighting those raid bosses, but you still kept that level of interaction with people. You're still answering questions. You're still balancing chat and singing and doing all this stuff. And that's, he was the big one, because I didn't really know anybody else. There wasn't anybody else back then. I can't say, like, for example, I looked up Lily Off, like so many people said that come through these doors, or I looked up the K6 or Jolts, because they weren't even around back then, but we were all getting our starts together at that time in our lives. We didn't look up to each other. I don't even think we know who each other were until like 3 or 4 years in.
Yeah.
So it was him. It was always Saint Vicious.
Okay. I think that's all for our questions right now. But
now.
Yeah, right now. I'm sure we can come up with more questions. One question I kind of have for chat is what your favorite. We know that Mitsu's favorite was Master G, the Invincible raid boss, right? My favorite was Terramorphous, just because I could actually do that one. Because again, I'm still not like the best at video games. I just love them and enjoy them, and I have gotten a little bit better. And I loved that one for the environment and just like the design of the boss itself. It was so beautiful. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Like, what are your favorite raid bosses? Tell us on Twitter, Mitsu at Mitsu Show, myself, Tess Games, and of course on our channels. And I'm gonna ask Mitsu for all of his channels in a minute. But thank you guys so much for joining us for all these questions. You're amazing, Mitsu.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I'm glad we got to have this conversation today. I really thought it was going to be short, but as it turns out, I forgot that I tell stories and I go on forever. So that's my bad. Sorry, everybody. I really thought this was going to be a 45-minute show. It is quite literally double that now. Oops.
I had a feeling. Seriously, it's fun to get to know how people got to where they are now, and especially people that are so established in this community. And like, I want to ask all these questions to every single person I see streaming it, and especially to you, obviously my co-host. So, thank you for answering, and thank you everybody for watching us and hearing us out. And we're just excited for what comes next. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
You do realize you're going to be in the hot seat at some point soon. I know you keep saying, "Oh, you answer all these already," but we're going to have you on record directly answering them at some. You don't get to ask and then just walk away. You're not next episode, but down the line, there's going to be a show. I'm going to put you in the hot seat, and you know what? Maybe I'll even bring back Liz for it too, and we'll have Liz ask a bunch of these questions as well. We'll do it like a GCX interview tag team.
Oh God. Okay, now that I have literally turned bright red. Season Pass 2 is out now, by the way, in case anybody didn't know, with Designer's Cut already out there for people to enjoy, and the Director's Cut, DLC 6 coming sometime in the coming spring, soon, very soon. Yes. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, DLC 6 is coming at you guys very soon. I know I'm very excited. I know Mitsu's very excited. I know Liz is very excited. I know that our hosts on our guests on Ultimate Vault Hunter are very excited. And K6 and Jolts are very excited because they also are hosting the hunt very soon. So if you want to learn more, make sure you go to their Twitter, Killer6 or Jolts139. Please check them out. They're amazing, and just join in the hunt. Even if you I am not a speedrunner by any stretch of the imagination. I thought I was going to be able to participate. I'm not entirely sure I'll be able to participate at this point, but I will be watching and talking about everybody else because I'm super excited to see what people come up with. I know Mystique Siren is going to run it and is going to do an amazing job. I'm excited to see what people come up with, what routes they take, and who ends up coming out on top. If you were preparing to run through the hunt, there is an Ultimate Vault Hunter episode coming up in 23 minutes from now.
Yes.
Where Triple G suggests a build using Zane. A lot of people are probably going to end up using Mose, which is an awesome character. I love her. In fact, if I do run it at all, it'll be with Mose. But Zane is a wonderful, very speedy character. So Triple G is an expert on Zane, so we brought him back on, and Liz asked him a billion questions on Ultimate Vault Hunter, and you guys should check it out because it's a really good kind of primer for the hunt, kind of some starting steps to take and some even later game steps to take on how you can be successful if you're playing Zane, or just in general. It's good tips for the hunt this year. So thank you guys so much for joining us. You're amazing. If you're enjoying the show as much as we love doing it, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube and if you enjoy the show. Get those notifications set up on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, YouTube Music, and Stitcher, and join us live on Twitch next week, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And thank you so much again, Mitsu, for answering all of my extra questions. And
it's fun.
Being fun. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. It's just a fun time, and everything is. I'm really looking forward to what comes next. That's all I want to say right now, because there really does look to be a nice road on the horizon for everything that is to come in the Borderlands series. Before I get sappy, let's do the thing. On behalf of Tess, myself, and the entire content creation team, thank you so much for joining us to do every single week. Now go forth and make some mayhem.